So I'd like to welcome you all to our third annual GGU Women in Leadership event. We're delighted. My name is Marianne Cook. I'm Associate Dean in the Business School, and I'm also a Professor of Management. And so I know some of you people here. I'm delighted to have met so many new people, and we're also thrilled that people from all the schools in our university are here with us tonight. We have an engaging and edifying evening planned for you with 5 superstars who have at least 2 things in common. One, they all have amazing work careers, and they're going to share those with you. And the other is that they all have degrees from GGU. Yay! So we're gonna hear from each of them, and after we're finished with our panel, we want you to continue to join us for networking back out in the lobby and share more food and drink. So we're thrilled for that. The hashtag, the handle for tonight, GGU Women, hashtag GGU Women. Please don't forget to use that. I'd like to welcome some of our team deans who are here. I see Rachel Van Cleve. Rachel, Dean of our law school, is here. President Fike, our new president, who's been with us on our team since August, had to run off to another event, but he did stop in to say hello and meet the panel. Dean Fouts, Paul Fouts of the business school, is outside. So we're delighted that these and other faculty and staff, lots of people here from our home. And I also want, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to all of the staff and people here who are volunteering, who work here and help put this amazing event together. This is our 3rd one. Each year we've doubled in size. This is the biggest venue we have in the university, and we're maxed out in here, so we're really thrilled. I don't know where we're going to meet you next year, but stay tuned for that. Especially tonight, I would like to thank Kendra Calvert, our marketing director, Danielle Anderson. Danielle's outside at the table, and Cassandra DeLosa. Cassandra is also outside, and thank them. Thank you for helping us. Okay, I'm going to start by introducing our moderator, who is then going to go on and introduce our panel and lead the discussion on our questions tonight. If you have some questions and you want to write them down, we'll have someone come around and collect them, and if time allows, we would love to have the panel be able to address your questions at the end, but no promises, because we have a lot of questions we already put together for them. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so I would like to introduce our moderator, State Board of Equalization member Fiona Ma. Fiona is, has an MBA, she's a CPA, and she got her tax degree from us here. So she's well educated and credentialed, but just listen to her career so far. She's been a small business owner. She was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in the year 2002 and served until 2006, representing us here in this city. And then she went on in 2006. She was elected to the California State Assembly, and she served the maximum allowable of 3 terms there until 2012, during which time she was the Speaker pro tempore, the first Asian woman ever to get that position. Right? And last year she was elected to the State Board of Equalization. Now, some of us might not know what that is. This is the only elected tax board in the United States. This board has both regulatory and adjudicatory powers that affect all taxpayers in our state. She represents almost 10 million people across 23 counties on matters that affect tax policy and tax practice. So that's what she's up to now. Her political work has covered an awful lot of ground. Here's just some of the topics that she has worked on in her career so far. She's been an advocate for small business owners. She's worked to protect consumers. She has helped to bring high-speed trains to the state of California. And she's been working to promote trade between California and Asia. We are so very proud of her many accomplishments and the hard work that she has done on all of our behalves as Californians. Please welcome tonight our moderator, State Board of Equalization member, Fiona Ma.
Thank you. Thank you, Marianne, and it's great to be here. I did my undergraduate in Rochester, New York, and I haven't been back since. And then I got my MBA at Pepperdine, and I don't go down there that often. So this is in my backyard. I loved Golden Gate University. I had a great hands-on experience, learned so much from the professors, and so I'm always glad to be asked to come back. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great, and I'm going to have one question for you that I want, because she's going to be asking all the questions of the panel, so I thought this isn't fair. We have to allow her a chance to answer a question. When I was hearing and reading about all of your accomplishments, I thought, wow, you've done so many different things, and I'm wondering if you have some words of wisdom that you could share with all of us here about how do you choose what path to go on? How do you figure out what kind of work you want to do next? Thank you.
So thank you for the question. As many of you know, I have a background in accounting, and that's because my parents wanted us to be either lawyers, engineers, accountants, or doctors. My parents were both born in China. I'm the oldest daughter, and they basically wanted us to pick a profession. And since I was good at math, they decided I should be an accountant. So not really picking that path, but my parents picked that path for me. So I went to a school that specialized in accounting. I did 2 quarters of co-op, graduated, started with the Big 8 accounting firm in taxation. And after about 5 years, I saw the glass ceiling. There were no women partners, very few women senior managers. They worked us pretty hard, and so I decided to leave and start my own practice. And as a business owner, CPA, I did help and represent a lot of small businesses. And I started to understand that small businesses are hardworking people. They don't necessarily, they can't necessarily afford the best lawyers and accountants or even lobbyists to go and represent them at City Hall or up in Sacramento. And so my passion or my path to where I am today is really representing small business owners. And so 20 years later, it's kind of ironic that I am now back doing tax work, using my education and my experience, which makes my parents very happy, and also representing small businesses, because most of the permittees with the State Board of Equalization are mom and pop small businesses. So being their voice and their advocate and being available to answer and help them with their tax issues is very, very satisfying to me. And so, that's kind of how I came to where I am today. It started out as a mission or a cause to represent minority and women businesses, and today it's kind of led me to every step. And I would just say to everyone here in this room, when you're offered that opportunity, you may not know why you're going to do it. If someone says, hey, you should do this, your first reaction may be, well, why me? I don't know if I'm qualified, or I'm too busy. But if you say yes and you just do it, it just opens up more doors, and you just never know. I never thought I'd be in elected office here today, especially on the tax board, but my whole world has come full circle. And so sometimes it works. Just say yes, step through those doors, find mentors who can help you, look for those opportunities. And, this is what this panel is going to be talking about as well, how they got here, who helped them along the way, what they're doing now, what they're passionate about, and, obviously words of wisdom for our audience. So I am going to introduce the first panelist, and then I'm going to have you maybe do a little bit of, how you got here, or, a little self-introduction, and then I'll go down the road so it's not me always talking. Okay, so the first Golden Gate alumni is Melinda Eisenhut Dunn. She is the Global Chief Financial Officer and Chief Compliance Officer of Sequoia Capital Operations, where she has worked for 23 years. She oversees all legal, compliance, and financial operations of Sequoia globally, and is the Chief Compliance Officer of Sequoia's hedge fund. Prior to joining Sequoia, she spent 5 years at Computerland Corporation as a Director of Worldwide Accounting, and she began her career auditing emerging businesses at Deloitte. Melinda holds an MBA in Finance from Golden Gate University, class of 1981, and has a BA with a focus on biological sciences and health from San Francisco State University. So maybe just some introductory words.
Sure. Thank you very much for joining today or tonight. So I graduated with a bio and health degree, and really weren't any jobs available. So I came to Golden Gate at the suggestion of a mentor, and it changed my life. I had one of my professors was a Deloitte partner, and so I worked my way into Deloitte from here, and just stayed in the finance field for 34 years now, and have been able to build and grow on that background. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next alumni is Agnes Menenagati. She is a senior database marketing analyst at AAA, where she manages integrated direct marketing campaigns for a membership base of more than 4 million AAA members in Northern California, Nevada, and Utah. Prior to joining AAA, she was a business systems analyst at Genentech, where she was responsible for guiding the deployment of enterprise marketing management applications to support commercial business operations. Agnes also served as marketing operations manager at Autodesk, where she led the initiative to automate integrated marketing processes and marketing spend tracking and reporting for Autodesk Americas, Canada, and Mexico. She's very, very busy and travels a lot. Originally from Nigeria, Agnes holds an MBA from Golden Gate University, class of 2005, and a bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing from Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, Nigeria.
Very close.
I tried. Thank you, Agnes.
Hi, everyone. I'm really, I count it a huge privilege and an honor to be here. I came to the US in 2003. Actually, it's a really long story, but I'm going to cut it really short. But to tag on to what you were saying, I was very passionate about not being in financial services. So my apologies to my panelists who are tax people and finance and all that, but I hated that. And so right out of college, my first job was in the bank, and for 2 years I was miserable, but I always knew that I had a passion for marketing. I was interested in technology, but I didn't know how that was going to work out. And then one fine day I walked into a library. I walked actually into a bookstore, and I found a book on e-commerce, and I was hooked. The fusion between marketing and technology, I was totally sold. Went online, did a lot of research, found Golden Gate University, applied, got admitted, and I got on a plane at 26 and I came. I've not regretted it one day since. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but for all the international students who are here, you guys are brave. You guys are really brave.
So our next speaker and panelist, I know also is not into finance and numbers. And she's actually a good friend of mine, so I can take a little liberty and talk about her a little bit. But Rebecca Prozan is a rock star. She's public policy and government relations manager for Google in San Francisco, one of the best jobs, I think. When we went down to visit her, I mean, it's like being at college again, where nobody has to dress up and everybody's having fun and just, you know, you don't have to have money, you know, you just, everything's free. I mean, I was like kind of jealous.
Okay, there's no press here, right? There's no press.
You can bring your dogs and bring your laundry and, you know. But prior to joining Google, Rebecca served as senior liaison actually she spent 7 years prosecuting misdemeanor and felony cases as an assistant district attorney. From there, she spearheaded the neighborhood prosecution program where she garnered public support to allow offenders to serve the community instead of going to the courtroom. Her career also includes serving as special assistant to Mayor Willie Brown, managing Attorney General Kamala Harris's campaign for district attorney. She co-chaired Bevan Dufty's first supervisorial campaign and served as strategic advisor to numerous local, state, and national campaigns. Rebecca holds a JD from Golden Gate University, class of 2003, and a bachelor's degree in politics from the University of California, Santa Cruz. Rebecca.
Well, other than I work at Google, thank you. BOE member Ma. My career, I would like to think that the tenet of my career and what I would like to think the purpose of my career is actually to help people. So you would think, well, how do you get to Google and help people? I was really a nerdy child. You know, some people had football and other people were cheerleaders. I had politics, and I was working on political campaigns since the age of 13. Some of you might remember some guy named Walter Mondale. That was actually the first candidate that I worked for. I was phone banking for him. And nice clap, I like it. And so I spent the first 5 to 10 years working in neighborhood services, doing windows and floors, helping with constituent phone calls and those kinds of things. I got burned out. I came here actually to this very room as a law student where I met my wife. So coming back here is always great. And then decided to become a prosecutor. Really what happened to me in terms of does the career choose you or do you choose the career was I wanted to succeed Bevan Dufty, who was somebody who I had worked for both in the mayor's office and as a supervisor, and so I ran unsuccessfully for his seat in 2010. That was a very changing move for me because I had spent so much of time preparing to run. It was a district race, it was Harvey Milk's seat. There's a lot of competition in this town. It didn't work out for me, as I like to say. I was, competing for American Idol, and it just wasn't the right fit. I came back to the DA's office, and when I got to general litigation, which, for the lawyers in the room, being a prosecutor in San Francisco is an extremely coveted position, I realized that I really just did not want to put away murderers and rapists and gang members, because after general litigation, when you're putting away robbers, and thieves and folks like that, that's really the next step up. That just wasn't right for me, and so I really had to go through a huge career search. The people in my generation in the room will appreciate the phrase, "What color is my parachute?" And there are others that will just, like I just had to figure out what was next for me. When I went back to Google, kind of like what BOE member Moss said, it was kind of like coming home. I had to put on a public policy talk today where I was literally putting together tables and chairs to have someone come speak to Google employees about the initiatives for the San Francisco ballot. So I do some political work in terms of educating Google employees about local politics and local government and just like community stuff. And then there's a lot to do around what I like to say is bringing the best of Google and the best of San Francisco together. We run a lot of small business initiatives and nonprofit initiatives where I'm making those connections. And then there's just a lot of, elected official relationship management and government management. So I kind of feel like I'm back where I started at City Hall, working for Willie Brown at the age of 24 all over again. And I really had to staff him again last night, and trust me, it was all coming back. So, yeah.
Once a staffer, never a staffer.
Always a staffer.
Yes, as my staff Callie is here. three women who are right now working in the corporate environment, and our last panelist is actually working in the public sector. She was appointed director of the San Francisco Department of Child Support Services by Mayor Gavin Newsom in 2004, where she has been a pioneer in introducing innovative programs that revamped child support service delivery. She has held seats on the San Francisco Reentry Council, the Family Violence Council, the Sentencing Commission, and others. Prior to her current position, Karen served as a budget analyst for both the Mayor's Office of Budget and Legislative Affairs and for the Bureau of Finance in the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. Before joining the city and county of San Francisco, Karen was assistant vice president at Manufacturers Hanover Trust Company, so she did have some banking. She holds a business degree from California State University, Hayward, and an executive MBA in public administration from Golden Gate University, graduating this year. Yes, the newest alumni.
Wow. Wow. So thank you so much for that. And I'm just so grateful to be here to speak with you and share a little bit about my journey. I was raised in New York, the Bronx, and I come from a very strict family who believed in the position of the young ladies in the family, and being the only girl of four boys, it was a major feat for me to step out on my own. My career started on Wall Street, and I was going to Marymount College in New York and was recruited by Manufacturers Hanover to come into their program for leaders, and worked there and worked my way up. At that time, that was the way that you grew in your career. The market crashed in 1987, and I don't know if many of you remember that, but there was a market crash in 1987. It rebounded very quickly, but what it did was it set the change for banking, and it began to banks began to reposition themselves and downsize and merge. And what I saw on Wall Street disturbed me, because colleagues that I had grown up in the organization with were now being laid off and didn't have the advanced degrees to fall back on. And the first to go were women and minorities. And so it really changed my perspective about what I wanted to do in my life. The second critical thing that happened for me that was life-changing was that I realized that in my life who I am as a gay woman, and I wanted to live my life in a way that was outspoken and outward and outgiving. And so I packed up a suitcase, much to my parents' dismay, and grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, and said, I am going to California. And I had very little money and no plan. But what I felt inside of my spirit, inside of myself, my intuition, was this was the right move for me. And it has been. And so I'm just very grateful to be here this evening. So thank you.
Okay, so who is keeping track of the questions? Are people writing it down? Just questions, like for the panelists at some point?
Yeah, I'll gather them.
Okay, all right. So in the meantime, we have some prepared questions, but please prepare your questions. The tougher, the better. I know some of the panelists don't like that, but I've sat on a lot of panels and moderated, and the toughest questions are always usually the best answers, right? Because it really forces you to think, and you never know what comes out. But I'm going to start with Melinda. In your job, you run operations, and you have to work with many different cultures and laws. that all affects Sequoia's operations. What advice do you have for becoming adept at managing complexity?
So Sequoia operates we're first of all a venture capital firm, for those of you who don't know Sequoia. And we operate in the US, and then we expanded to India, China, and Israel around 2005. And I think the way that at least I approach it, and I approached it when we did the expansion because I was responsible to put the infrastructure in place, was you have to come at it from the technical side, which means you have to understand the laws, understand the tax ramifications of different geographies, which means hiring great advisors, which is always my the coin word there. But there are people who have done it before, so find the best people who have done it before and then just learn from them. So that's very doable. Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't take resources, because sometimes I think managers above you may underestimate what it takes to launch into India or China. You have to have the resources, you have to have the staff to do it right, and to really put in place the protective measures that you would need to put some Western influence over controls and procedures. So that's just half of it, though. The other half is the EQ factor, which is your social graces, or understanding how to work harmoniously with different cultures. And I have learned the hard way, and many cases actually did well. So I'll give you a few examples. One of our geographies tends to be very abrupt in their manner. They don't, it sometimes can feel a little off-putting. And luckily I was comfortable enough with them to chat about that. And they told me that they view Americans as putting all this, diplomacy around everything they say, and they feel that we're a little less trustworthy because of that. So it was interesting to share that, because now we just have such a great rapport, because I know when they're abrupt not to take it personally, and they know if I'm putting flowery words that I'm actually trustworthy. It's just the way I've been raised to be diplomatic. So that's one example. There's another geography I deal with that can send some scathing emails that can throw me and my team so far under the bus that there's no daylight. And of course they copy all the senior team, so I have to deal with all that fallout quite regularly. And I, being a protective manager, shot back a few nasty grams myself, and really did not serve me or the team or anybody. It just escalated, and there's no winning. There's no winning here. So I had to bring in a coach and actually train us to not react. We now, if we feel like screaming, we just go to facts and circumstances. Everything has to be just, what are the facts? Take all the emotion out. Because to do otherwise just brings you to the same level, and it's not going to go anywhere. So that's been very effective. One other example is some of the business practices for a CFO trained in the U.S. Were a little painful in the beginning, because, for instance, they might view Uncle Harry as a better person to park our cash than a true third party. Whereas here we think the third party is the only proper place to trust versus somebody that's known to them. So I've had to learn to understand these cultural differences and to work with them, because there are different ways to get from point A to point B, and it's not necessarily always the Western way. So
Great. So, you talked about a little bit about cultures, and Agnes, not growing up here in the U.S., I'm sure there were kind of certain things that were like shocking when you first got here, but what do you say in terms of how you can gain global leadership skills. How can we develop global leadership skills as women?
Well, I talked a little bit about how I got here initially. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I think each and every one of us, we have a story, and there's nothing as powerful as your personal experience. When I arrived here in 2003, actually, it's quite interesting that I wasn't picked up at the airport. So typically, when you come from another country, there's usually someone here to welcome you, right? I didn't have that luxury. I had to figure it out from day one. So it was by the grace of God and pure grit and the wonderful program that I went through here at Golden Gate University. I had some of the best teachers here who actually prepared me for the workplace. And then I also think that being women especially, we are actually born leaders. Every woman has the capacity and has the ability inborn within them to actually lead. You might have a home, you might have kids, you might be a teacher. Whatever you do, you have, I believe it's a God-given gift. You have that capacity to lead, but how do you develop that skill? For me, as someone from another culture, I've been really, really blessed and privileged to have had a lot of opportunities to develop certain skills. There are a ton of them, but because of time, I'm going to only talk about two. The first one is essentially the ability. It's given me, I've had a lot of opportunities that have provided me with a willingness, right, to explore unfamiliar scenarios. And what I mean by that is I've been placed in situations in the workplace where I had zero experience, but coming out of coming from where I came from my country, from my background, and all of that, I positioned myself to be able to do what I couldn't do. I had to learn. I had to apply myself to areas in life where I had very little experience, and because I was able to do that successfully, I was able to actually thrive in my career. I'll give you a few examples. Right out of school, right out of graduate school, my first job at Autodesk, I was hired essentially to translate marketing spend budgets from Excel spreadsheets into an automated system. So at the time I got hired, they were tracking their marketing spend using Excel spreadsheets. They had deployed this wonderful software system that was supposed to help them automate that entire process. I had never dealt with this before, but I came in with that can-do attitude. I said to myself, I was going to figure this out. So what did I begin to do? I began to talk to the marketing program managers. I had to understand, what do you currently do? What are your challenges? How can I help? I made myself available, right? And then I sometimes I'd leave the office at 8 o'clock, but I said to myself I was going to figure out a way to help these people manage their processes a lot better. I successfully delivered that on that project. It got rolled out to Canada, some parts of Asia, and all of that. So that was the first unfamiliar scenario I had to deal with, But I had the mindset, I had the thinking that, look, I can do this. I might not have the resources on hand, but I'm going to apply myself and I'm going to learn. And as leaders, I think that's very, very important. You have to be willing to learn. You have to really be willing to go that extra mile to apply yourself to get to a successful outcome. Right after that, I got hired by Genentech, and believe it or not, as a business systems analyst, I didn't even know what that meant when I got hired, But they saw something. They said, "Look, we can see your resume. We see some of this experience there and all of that, and we'll train you." Again, I went into this totally unfamiliar scenario, and I thrived. The second point I was actually going to bring up is actually tied in together. The second thing I actually learned, that has actually helped me throughout my career, is the ability to be able to develop relationships with people. Like Melinda pointed out, you're going to be working with people from different cultures. You have to be able to bring yourself to a place where you're willing to understand, be kind of like open-minded, different cultures, we have different approaches to things. But that willingness to go out, build those relationships will serve you throughout your career. I know that's a really long-winded answer, but I hope it's really helped in terms of, when you think about yourself as a leader and the kind of skill sets that you should have. Thank you.
So thank you. So you talk about skill sets, and Rebecca, you spent most of your life in politics. Women are 50% of the population, yet elected at the local, state, even federal level, we're only about maybe 25 to 30%. And now you're going into the tech world, where there's less women leaders in the tech world, yet maybe you can just tell us a little bit, like, is it 50-50 in the tech world, women and men? What do you see, the promotional opportunities? Is it more fair, less fair? How do, because I don't know a lot about tech, so.
Wow, Fiona. A little bit of a curveball.
She's my good friend, that's why I asked her one of these questions that you guys gave me.
So I think so because my role is in policy and communications, it's skewed differently, and so it's a much more, as compared to the rest of the tech industry, it's a much more diverse employees in terms of gender and people of color. I don't think that if you were in a data center in, fill in the blank state, anywhere in between the East and West Coast, you would find the same kind of diversity that you would in Mountain View and San Francisco, just because the pool is just very different. And I think too, the promotional opportunities are also, the California policy team is small. There's 5 of us. And so just to give you a sense of how Google policy works, the majority of America's policy team is in DC for obvious reasons, because there are 435 members of Congress, there's 100 members of the Senate, all those relationships need to be managed. And then for the other states, the issues aren't as hot as they are in California, and so there'll be one person that does the Pacific Northwest or one person that does the Southeast. And I think that the movement up becomes difficult because there just aren't very many positions. Like, for me to be a vice president of policy, the current vice president of policy is Susan Molinari, who's a former member of Congress, who can pretty much dial and have the Speaker of the House will pick up her phone calls. And I can't say that I have that skill set. I might develop it. It could happen. You never know. But
You can call me and Kamala and Willie Brown.
Yes. And I also have I have a fantastic job because of those relationships, which gets back to the relationships management piece. But I do that is. I think that is an issue, and but in terms of tech in the government relations world, tech is just learning that it actually has to have a government relations world, because for the most part, it's a lot of libertarian independent thinkers who are trying to operate outside of the regulated world, and so they didn't necessarily think that they had to play. I hate to put my counterparts at a Dropbox, but they're the perfect case study. So I don't know if you remember, Dropbox were the employees that had the, we'll just call it a kerfuffle, with the youth at the mission playground. And so Dropbox, they do stuff with the cloud. So for people who know what the cloud, that's the stuff up here where you save your things that's not on the drive, but you can access it wherever you are. They didn't necessarily think that they had to have a government relations person, because why do they need to be able to pick up the phone and call a Fiona or a Kamala or Willie Brown? They're just dealing with the cloud. All of a sudden, when the mission playground stuff hit, it became literally a whole new ballgame. And so I think there are going to be more opportunities in that space, and I think that all of you should be considering roles in a communications or in a community relations or a public affairs mindset, but it's growing.
And then Karen, so you used to work in finance, and now you went to the public sector. What would you say? What advice would you give to women who are trying to switch from one sector to another?
Ooh, okay. Research, and this is the perfect place to talk about research. First thing you want to research is yourself. You really want to know, who are you? and what drives you, and what is your passion. What do you think about, what makes you happy? Because whatever you do, in order to be great, you're going to have to put in a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you're going to have to make sacrifices, and there will be challenges that you will have to confront. So the first step is to really check in with you and determine what is really driving you. What do you want out of this life? The other thing is, career and life go hand in hand. That's where we are, and that's how we live. It is a part of who we are. So checking in with yourself is really, really important. I made the decision to come out to California because I knew in my heart and in my soul that that was the right move for me. I knew that what I was seeing on Wall Street didn't work for me. I knew that what I was seeing with my colleagues didn't work for me. And I didn't have a whole lot of plan, but what I had was friends, mentors. And that really helped me to move into California and begin to transition. But my first job was a receptionist. And worked with an engineering firm. And my job was to sit at the door and answer the phone, and the first person to greet folks coming in the door. And while I was sitting there, I noticed that the engineers all had these very expensive books, and they all had duplicate books. And I thought maybe I could build an online library so that all the engineers could share their books and they wouldn't spend so much money on their books. And when I talked to my boss about it, she loved the idea. I did it, and they paid for my tuition to get my undergrad. And that's how I started. So, thinking about what drives you and what you care about, and how you can use the skills that you have. My financial skills have served me well managing a government department, because I work with a budget and I have a lot of need and just so much money that we can work with. So my skills have served me well. I would say as you research outside, within yourself, you have to also research outside of yourself. We are living in times where multiple careers is the norm. It is no longer where you're going to start as an apprentice with a particular company, spend 25 years, 30 years, and then perhaps, if you're lucky, retire and go to Hawaii, which is what I want to do. But rather, we are living longer, and we have multiple careers and multiple opportunities to utilize our skills. And so thinking about yourself in a different way, thinking about yourself, I like to think about us as free agents, like basketball players. We're free agents. Building your skill set and marketing yourself is really key and really important, and developing yourself in that way. So what is your long-term goal? What is your track? What is it that you want to accomplish in your life? How do you want to present into this world? That's also very key. And the thing to understand, from my perspective, what I've learned is that the private and the public sector are starting to merge. There's a lot that government is bringing in around technology, and there is commitment to efficiency and effective government leadership. So as we're moving forward in your career, don't think that because you've spent this much time in private sector that you can't move into public, and don't think that you can't move into private from public, because the lines are starting to get blurred there. So I would say that it's important to really own your journey. Check in with yourself. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right for you. It doesn't matter what others may say around you. It matters what you think and what you feel, and how that job makes you feel, because you're going to spend a lot of your life's time doing that work. So it must mean something powerful to you.
Thank you. And you did talk about mentors.
Yes.
And I'd like to just ask the panelists, who were your mentors along the way? How do you find a mentor? That was one of the questions, how to get a mentor. And are you currently mentoring others? Is it like an official mentor or informal? I know the corporations set up, some are formal and you have to ask someone and they have to accept you, and then some are just, kind of along the way. So I don't know, just what is your mentorship journey, and how do you give advice for women who want to find a mentor?
Sure. Well, I think mentors are all around us, and I don't think formal structuring is always great because it sometimes doesn't click. But I think you have to have and maintain a learning spirit and a low ego, because you can learn from anybody. And I learned from all walks of life, and I'm always looking for what I can learn. So, and mentors are all around. You just have to ask and pay attention. So that would be my advice. Okay. Thanks.
Well, for me, I think you're basically very right, because we have mentors all around us. I've had my mother was a very prominent figure in my life. I got to see how a strong woman looks like, basically, from my mother. But as an international student coming out here, I had been able to actively seek out someone who, when I looked at their career, I liked where he was. Incidentally, it turns out to be a man. He wasn't a woman. But I liked where he was in terms of his career. And when I looked at his career, I could say to myself, this is where I want to be when I'm like 5 or 10 years down the road. So I actively sought him out. I tried to always talk to him about major decisions that I had to make. I've always been also quite fortunate that I've had people around me who are very strong. My husband, who's here today, Sam, also came out from Nigeria, and so he's been quite supportive. In terms of my career as well. Believe it or not, I have 3 children. The oldest is 5. I have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I think that without his support, without his mentorship,
we're going to talk about live-work balance after this. So hold those thoughts.
Okay, I will. But I think that is, in my experience, I've found that I've actively sought out a mentor, and I think it's very important to try to know what you want for yourself early on. And if you have maybe it's a man or it's a woman out there that you admire what they do, it makes sense to try to get them engaged, get them become part of your career growth as well.
Mentors, Rebecca, I know, probably have many.
You.
Really?
No, seriously, there are very few elected officials like Fiona Ma. Let me just say that. Fiona Ma is someone that always returns your phone call. She will always tell you or help you. She will always tell you whether or not she can help you out. But 9 times out of 10, it's always yes. What can I do to help? Seriously. In addition to Fiona, because I haven't had the pleasure of working for her, coward. I would have to I just have to say, and I know some people love him, some people hate him, but Willie Brown, to this day, I can pick up the phone and he will call me back. He always makes time for me to just go see him for 20 minutes in good times and in bad times at the St. Regis. If you think of the myriad of people that have worked for that man and how much time he still gives to this day to a whole cadre of former staff people, it's pretty amazing. My problem is that I love to mentor too much. And actually, I'm just going to preempt right now that I have promised my manager that I can't do any more informational interviews just because it's just really bad. I do have 2 young women at work that are just super smart whippersnappers that just have a very bright future, and I'm always pushing them to apply for things, helping them think through, like, yes, Google's fantastic, and yes, you could work there for 30 years and be a very happy person, but there's a life outside of the bubble, and you should go check it out and see what it's like. And that's just like, I just love that life coaching stuff. So.
Okay, Karen.
Okay, well, Rebecca, I have to say, you have two of my favorite mentors. Fiona has been a mentor for me, working part of the mayor's budget office. I had the pleasure of learning and watching and understanding politics while Fiona was on the board of supervisors, and just an incredible energy on the board, and got so much done. And it was like, wow, I love that. And I was watching her all the time, and that's what I would suggest. Mentors are all around you. You can just watch somebody as dynamic as Fiona and learn so much about how to carry yourself, how to present yourself, how to communicate your ideas, your thoughts, what's on your mind, and so on. So I absolutely have to say thank you to you. And Willie Brown is also a mentor of mine, as is Kamala. And
What did you learn from Willie Brown?
Ooh, I learned that my numbers better always be right, and I learned, and that and that I must always be prepared. Always do your homework. Don't walk into a meeting unprepared. You must do your homework. And be prepared to listen to an opposing opinion, and be prepared. That's what I learned from him. So mentors have been around me for a while. As I said, I left everything and came out to California and started all over again. So it was by the grace of many mentors that I was able to move up and move forward in my life. I will say that friends and also school has been a great source of mentorship for me. The professors that I've worked with as part of my program, the Executive Masters in Public Administration, which I have, those professors have been an incredible mentor to me, and really helped me get to the end of the day. And I will tell you that I have stalled and stalled and stalled and went back and went back. And, okay, next semester, next quarter. And they have just been amazing. I have to say that Jay Gonzalez and Nikki is just amazing. They've just been wonderful. And then finally, I want to say that we are each mentors for each other. Someone sitting next to you, like this incredible person, and learning from colleagues, and just sitting next to you in a classroom can be a mentor for you. And then I personally feel that one of the powerful mentors for me is actually a mentee who is with me this evening. Her name is Savannah Holloway. She's 16 and she's in high school, Galileo.
Where are you?
And she is my mentor. She actually, I'm her mentor, but she menteed me, I guess. It's the right word to say it. I graduated but was not planning to attend the graduation. I didn't think about the importance of attending my graduation, and Savannah insisted that I go. My entire family is back east, and I've just been through life changes, and so I'm pretty much on my own and just wasn't thinking about it, and she encouraged me to go. She was my guest at my graduation, and when I walked across the stage, I could hear her hooting and hollering. And And we went to lunch, and it was one of the most amazing days of my life. And I will say that what you give in mentorship, you absolutely, definitely get back. So thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Savannah, for being Karen's family here in California. And I know that Agnes talked a little bit about Sam and her 3 kids, and a number of the cards that came in is like, how do you balance your work and your life, especially if you have kids or parents at home? In my case, it's dogs. I am very, very busy, but I live with my parents who, you know, take very, very good care of our 3 dogs, and so I am able to travel. And I also got remarried about 4 years ago when I could see like my life slowing down. I am not a very good person who balances work and my personal life. So I'm anxious to hear how you guys do it. So why don't we start with Agnes?
Well, so I'm going to start off where you say when you talked about your life slowing down. I actually had to slow down because, believe it or not, with my 3 children and all that, I actually started the PhD program here as well. So that's actually, I mean, at some point I had to tell myself, this is too much. And I think that we'll all get to certain points in our lives, right, where you have to make that conscious decision, right? To what you said, it's what you do every day. You have to be able to enjoy it. You know, you have to be able to go home and say, okay, I've actually accomplished something worthwhile in my life. So I had to scale down. I had to change jobs at some point. You know, as a business systems analyst, I was doing way too much. Then I got married, I got pregnant, I had my son. Right around the time I started the PhD program, I had to sit down and tell myself, hey, you have to stop, you have to slow down. So I slowed down. And then it's also very important for me that I'm able to have a partner who actually supports me. That's very, very important as well. If you are in a situation where you have a partner that actually supports you in life, you know, as you do life together, that's very, very critical. And so I think work-life balance is very important. I think beyond all of this career, beyond all of the things we want to accomplish in life, you get to the point where you have to make that shift. You know, have to mentally make that shift and say to yourself, I'm at the point in my life where it's my kids first, it's work, it's my career. So for me, that's actually what helped me a great deal. I'm going to go back to that PhD program at some point, but not right now.
Prioritizing. How about you, Melinda? I'm sure you work many hours, long hours.
Actually, I think I've had an incredibly balanced life. So surprisingly, when I started at Sequoia, I negotiated 3 days a week, and it was 65 hours a week that I put in, but I only had to be in the office 3 days, and that was 23 years ago, and I was a pioneer. And I put that extra time in, and I didn't get paid, but they didn't know I was working at those hours, so it wasn't fair. I was afraid they'd make me come in full time. So anyway, I was able to do it all around my daughter's, who's here, my daughter's sleeping and everything, so I could be a mom. And then by the time she was in the 3rd grade, I was back at full time. But the job didn't require travel, and I think we need to get daycare just in the workplace.
Yes.
That's off to Google. And I think we have to have respect for lean out schedules, like mom's leaving at 4 and maybe logging back on at 8 if they want to stay full time. Or I read about these situations where they're giving now, I forget which company it is, giving a year off. I mean, you're so out of the workplace in a year. I mean, who's going to want to go back, right? I think they should allow 3-day-a-week work weeks or whatever the mom and the dad need. I think our culture, it's what's best for our children, and I think we need to accommodate this, and I don't know what it's going to take. You're in legislature. You guys who have
We
the
believe in
connection.
all that. Free
You know Willie
everything.
Brown. Make it
Preschool, daycare, maternity leave, paternity leave. We're all about that in government. How about you, Rebecca?
I'm not very good at it. I'll just say that. In addition to transitioning to Google last year, I also was appointed to something called the San Francisco County Central Committee for the Democratic Party, which means I'm a mini elected official. Fiona's a state elected official. And so that means that the politics have reemerged, and so that means lots of night and weekends and things that I need to go to and sponsor and attend, which gives me like some solace that perhaps there will be elected office in the future, which is a great thing. I'll be on the ballot next June, but that doesn't help the work balance at all. I have a very supportive wife who, after 13 years, we actually still like each other. And we love to go wine tasting. I've become an avid cyclist. I did the AIDS Life Cycle last year as well. But on a daily basis, I make sure that I take lunch every day. Even if it's just 30 minutes, just to get away from the desk and just get out. And then I'm also, my new thing is just, I'm obsessed with getting the 10,000 steps. So like, I just feel like just get out, just walk, just like, I don't do the Fitbit, I have the phone, it's a thing, but I feel like just making sure that you're getting out, you're moving around, you're taking your breaks, so that in your 24 hours of not responding to certain emails, that it's always helpful to just get up, walk around, and then respond to the email that is really making your day not that great. Yeah.
I too am not good at it. I do spend a lot of time, in addition to the different boards. I'm on the Center for Young Women's Development board and doing things in the community and so on. So I'm not really good at the downtime, but what I have been doing is getting up an hour earlier and meditating in the morning. And just really starting my day off with quiet time and just being introspective, and that I find helps my day to go very comfortably through my day, if you will, even when there's the roller coaster ride that we go on, running from meeting to meeting, or issue to issue, or opportunity to opportunity. So I do carve out that morning time, so it's sort of the transition time for me. I do a lot of the planning for the next day the night before, so I can get that time in the morning, so I can have that hour. And I do have 3 little dogs, and I spend time with them, and I just do my meditations and feel really good about the day. So that's how I do it.
So my hobbies are inputting business cards. So anyone who sends me an email or gives me a business card, you will be in my database and you will be hearing from me.
Okay, there's this thing called Evernote. We need to teach you what that is.
I know, but you can't tag, and I like to tag and,
We
send out. Okay.
We need to
Talk about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
talk about it.
And then the other way I relax is to look at my Facebook friends to see what they're doing before they go to bed every night. Because I just believe like Facebook, unlike the news, is kind of happy. People are like celebrating and sharing and, just filling in people, with their lives. And so I really like Facebook. And one of the questions that came in is, how do you best utilize social networking? Twitter, LinkedIn, are you guys on social network? Do you use it for professional or personal purposes? Any other applications and things you can share with the audience? Anybody want to jump in?
I'm terrible at it. I don't use it.
Okay. Probably hours out of your day that you're saving, doing something more productive maybe. Agnes, anyone?
I use LinkedIn quite a bit. I've kept in touch with a lot of my colleagues from my past jobs and all of that, and so in terms of using that to network, I think I'm mainly just a LinkedIn girl.
I use all three. No shocker. So I don't know if I'm as active as Fiona is. I try to have a healthy relationship with Facebook because too much sharing also just I only have so much brain space. I've gotten a little more obsessed with Twitter only because I can do some news and some personal. So I feel like I'm keeping up to date on everything that's going on. And I have a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn and I are acquaintances. I wouldn't call us friends. I'm closest with Facebook. Twitter and I are getting better acquainted.
I'm like you.
I'm getting into social media a bit more. The child support program is a federal-based program, so I communicate, and we're meeting online more and more. And Yammer is a powerful tool for sharing in that space. I'd mentioned earlier the connection between government and technology is growing. Trying to keep up with a bit of that, but I am, my niece is trying to get me on there, and my mentee's trying to get me on there, and so I'm getting on there.
And I would just say from my past experience being in elected office where, 15 years ago you were just hoping that the newspapers would pick you up. And now with social media, you can really create your own identity and brand so that if, maybe the media doesn't write something positively, people can go to your Wikipedia page or your LinkedIn page or your Facebook and see who you really are, right? And I think that's the power of the internet and social marketing networks for women is we're not good at patting ourselves on the back and issuing these press releases saying how great we are every day. But we are very good at communicating what we do, and it's usually around things that we love and things that we care about. So I just found that social media has really been the great equalizer. So one of the questions came in, within an organization, should an individual build their own brand? If so, how? Do you have a brand? People know you as something, or, if they say, hey, like Agnes is this. I don't know, for me, like, everyone knows I like karaoke.
That kind of brand.
So I'm kind of like the social karaoke queen. That's kind of my brand.
Oh, I think you naturally build your brand just by, as a CFO, integrity is kind of important. So that's sort of my brand. And so I always have to go back to that and make sure I'm holding true to that brand in all my decision making.
I don't know if I had actively built a brand, but I know that one of the themes that kept coming up throughout my reviews was she's persistent. So I was told I often heard if you wanted to get something
was
done,
she persistent?
give it to her.
Okay, your husband agrees with you.
I would like to say, it's the first line of my LinkedIn profile, just to tie it to the last question, an effective and tireless leader. I feel like what I like people to think about me is that I'm someone that gets things done, that is able to get things done because of relationships that I've cultivated and managed through the years in different roles. And tireless just because, when I want something, I will go for it.
I think my brand in my field is someone who is truly a champion for children and for families that are struggling with self-sufficiency. I think that the key for me has been to, and I think my brand, if you will, is to work with parents in new ways to help them lift themselves out of poverty by working with fathers and in new ways and connecting them to employment, which is something that you don't hear too much about in child support. We tend to have a different perspective and focus on on different things in terms of collecting child support, but we're really working very, very hard to build capacity for families and to honor family relationships. So I think if there's a brand for me, it is the power of the family we're honoring in our child support program in San Francisco.
Another question, common question that has been coming up is what is the toughest challenge for all of you? Either today or as you have been going up through the corporate political ladder. Karen?
Okay, so I think the toughest challenge for me is I think it's, you know, in child support, in our caseload, I see a lot of families that are struggling to maintain and struggling to stay in San Francisco, and I think, you know, that really challenges me to do the best job I can to help those families that are struggling to stay in the communities, that they're second and third generations. That keeps me up at night, wanting to be able to help. And the other is when parents come to us and say that I've been praying for a solution, and I've been praying for you to help in any way you can. I've been praying for something to happen for us. And I take that very, very seriously. I think the power of government and the responsibility of government is to ensure that all of our citizens have the best opportunity to enjoy this amazing country and feel a part of our society and our culture. And so what keeps me up at night is not meeting that goal.
An old friend of mine, who's also an old friend of Fiona's, Ellie Schaefer, gave me a little plaque that I've kept on every single desk since the 90s. What it says is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And I feel like fear of failure has always been my personal biggest challenge. If you can't tell by now, I'm a big fan of self-deprecating stories to make everyone feel better. So I had to take the bar exam 3 times. I always tell people, especially when I know there are lawyers in the room or future lawyers, just to know you're not alone. It's a lot of famous people that shall remain nameless who also had to take the bar exam more than once. I've already come out to tell you that I didn't win my first run for the Board of Supervisors. But you know, it's when Joe Biden talked about healing from the death of his son Beau, and when they said, you know, how do you do that every day? And he was like, I just do what my mother told me. I just get up. I just get up every day, and that's how I overcome that challenge.
Well, for me, I think that I'll always be an immigrant. And that kind of was a challenge for me initially, because I always wondered, would I be able to fit into this culture, this totally new place? You know, this I can actually say this is my second home now, but even in the workplace, it was quite challenging, because the first thing I would hear was, oh, you have an accent, where are you from? You know, people tended to look at you like, oh, you're this foreign person, you know, you don't really, you know, you're kind of different, you know, you're exotic, you're from this far away West African place and all of that. So it was like, initially it was a challenge trying to have to prove myself. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's like a recurring theme. Anytime you move to a new place or to a new position and all of that, it's always going to be there. But I've come to believe in myself. I've come to believe that I have something to bring to the table. So regardless of where I'm from, if I have an accent or not, I know that I have something to contribute. So it's always going to be there. It's always that white elephant in the room. But regardless of that, I've learned to not have it define my work. I have something to contribute. I can go to work every day and make sure that I'm kind of like making that difference every day, and that becomes something else that I don't really pay attention to.
I would say it was maturing, getting to the point where I didn't have so much drama around when things didn't work and things did work, and it kind of accepting what wants to leave your world. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's a person or something, and accepting what wants to come in, and just kind of trusting my path, I think is what I would say was a huge, as far as struggle, the struggle of all the drama and fighting for things that I should have let go, and not fighting for so I think it's just acceptance and trust.
So another question that came in is, what do you look for when you're hiring someone? Some of these folks are looking for jobs. They're coming back. What kind of qualities or, personalities or backgrounds? I mean, I know for me personally, I like to hire people who have real life experiences. Sometimes I don't hire the Harvards and the Yales, but I really want to hire people who are good people, who really care about serving and helping and not saying no to people. So those are kind of the people I like to hire. How about you guys?
I like to hire people who have worked hard. So I'll even ask high school GPA, even though I had a terrible high school GPA. It's really unfair. But I feel like today there's a lot more pressure to be good in high school. So I look for AP classes, and I like to hire smart people that are hardworking. That's where I go.
Well, I haven't really had to hire anyone, but I've had the opportunity on occasion to sit in on interviews with people that were going to be hired, and the things I kind of looked out for were authenticity. Like you said, I want to hear your story. I want to hear how you got to where you are, not necessarily what's on your resume. So for me, that's the kind of thing I look out for.
I like people that do windows and floors. So, I sort of love this policy talk that I did today, because we had a big event last night, the Google Impact Challenge. We gave $5.5 million in grants, and totally different. Thank you. It was all me. Totally different team, totally different budget, and they had a whole bunch of professionals that pulled off the event. They everything was staged, everything was perfect, and the whole time I'm looking at our team like, why can't we have this? So that's how the Impact Challenge rolls. And this afternoon I'm on the phone with Tech Talk, which is not a good idea. Nothing is working. The mics aren't working. This, that, the room isn't set up. My speaker's coming in 5 minutes, and everything is a total mess. But my manager texted me because I texted her saying, you know what, next year we just need a budget. This is just not worth our time to be doing this stuff. It's not right. And so she was like, I'll just come help you. And she just came down and started folding tables and chairs and whatever else. And just to go back to 5 comments ago, she can call the president. So she kind of upstages the people that I can call. And the fact that she would come down and do that, and that we would all do that together as a team building thing, those are the kind of people I want to be around.
So we've talked a lot about character. You can have the resume and the skills, but at the end of the day, what sets you apart from the person next to you who is vying for that very same position is what drives you, your passion, because that's when it's going to come out. That's when it's going to be seen. That's when people are going to see who you really are and what you're all about. I look for folks who get and understand service to the public, what that means, and what it calls you to do, and what the expectations are. And I look for those individuals who have the skills but also are ready, willing, and able to do what they can to lift up communities. That's important. It's a very important work. It is a calling. And so I can see two resumes that have identical skill sets, identical education, but what sets one apart from the other is their commitment to the community and their commitment to do good for the community and to lift up everyone.
So I think that's a highlight to conclude our conversation. I want to thank all of you fabulous Golden Gate University alumni. I do have a question. Does anyone know what our mascot is?
Oh, the Griffins.
All right. I guess I was the only one that didn't know what our mascot was. Shame on me. Shame on me. But I just want to thank our panelists one more time. We heard some words of wisdom from Melinda Eisenhut-Dunn. Understand your culture, and sometimes it's better not to react, right? From Agnes, women are born leaders. We need to learn how to develop our skills, and it's important to find a supportive spouse. Rebecca Prozan, there is life outside the bubble. No, you're not alone. And Cameron Royce, research yourself and outside of yourself, and own your journey and check in with yourself. So thank you, fabulous ladies, for sharing part of your life with us.
And for Fiona Ma, I think her words of wisdom for us tonight are never give up, keep going, and never say no to anybody who needs help. Thank you all. Come and join and network. We're so delighted that you're all here. We'll see you next year. And please learn from one another as our panelists recommended. Thank you very much.